All right, I will call to order the Common Council meeting on November 2nd, 2021 at 5:16. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a roll call, please.
Alder Allen.
Present.
Alder Arata Frada.
Here.
That was here.
Alder, oh,
Yeah, she didn't have her microphone on.
Okay, thank you. Alder Gerhart.
Here.
Alder Herbst.
Here.
Alder Maldonado.
Here.
Mayor Richardson.
Here.
Alder Strassman.
Here.
Alder Udell.
Here.
Alder Wheeler.
He's excused.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to go actually right into closed session to get an update on lawsuit. If someone would like to read the motion.
I'll motion to go into closed session. Motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 1G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Consideration and discussion of offer to settle excessive tax assessment claim for Hy-Vee, Inc.
Seconded by Dave. All in favor of going into closed session, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay? All right, we are going into closed session. All right, we are back. You need a motion to reconvene into open session.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Joe, moved by Jay. All in favor of reconvene to open session, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, we are back into open session. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding what was discussed in closed session?
I would move to deny the offer from Hy-Vee regarding the pending litigation.
Second.
All right, moved by Jay, seconded by Randy. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of denying, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that does, I guess it passes to deny. All right, thank you, everyone. Next, we will go to number 7, public appearances, non-agenda items, new appointments. I will open the public hearing to adopt the aldermanic districts for redistricting. There's no one in chambers, well, that wants to speak to this anyway. Misty's here. And Scott, there's no one online, is there? No one's registered. All right, seeing no comments from the public, then I will close the public hearing. All right, no unfinished business. New business, there is a memo from the community development planner. And I don't know, Wade, if you want to speak to this. Welcome.
Sure. Hello, Council. Just let me share my screen here. All right, so I'm just basically going to work off this memo that's in your packet. So just really quickly familiarizing the council with kind of the process to redistrict, essentially a 3-step process.
Wait, could you zoom in? Could you zoom in on the memo?
You bet. Is that good? Better? No? I'm sorry, is that okay, Gabriella?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's better. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, essentially a 3-step process, creation of municipal wards, and then creation of aldermanic districts, which are essentially blocks of contiguous wards. and then obviously adoption of those wards and districts. So our wards must also be consistent with county supervisory districts. And I think folks probably know the county did recently adopt their districts, and we'll talk more about that. So essentially, in terms of that three-step process, city staff did work with a redistricting committee, which included alders and residents over 3 meetings, basically over the month of October, to come up with various redistricting map options. And at their last meeting, the committee did recommend a final map option, option 1AB, which was the map that was presented to council 2 weeks ago. So from that point, staff did make minor non-technical changes to that aforementioned option 1AB. Basically 2 changes. I'll talk about what those are. We revised the border between wards 11 and 12 to ensure, again, consistency with those county boundaries. And I could talk about where that is on the maps, but no population was in those affected areas. And it was a very, very minor map change. And then change 2, and I did see this coming just with the rush timeline. There was various errors and omissions in the ward descriptions that were contained in the ordinance and the resolution that was presented to council on October 12th. So we did make those changes. So now all the descriptions do match the maps to the letter. And again, we can talk more about those changes. But getting back to what staff and what the committee looked at when we came up with these map options, there was various criteria that we had to follow to make sure our maps are quote unquote legal. First, and I apologize for the formatting on this memo, but I'll try to jump back and forth here. But essentially 2 kind of spatial elements to our requirements, contiguity and compactness. Contiguity obviously means the wards and districts need to be contiguous, whole. So we certainly had to follow that criteria. And then to the degree we can, compactness, that's a little bit more subjective, but I think that visual kind of shows you what compactness means and what non-compactness means. And then the third criteria, we did have size parameters related to our ward sizes, both minimum sizes and maximum sizes. So our minimum was 300, our max was 2,100. And then popping back up to this box, and it's probably hard to read. I don't think I'll zoom in though. But basically there's a few elements in here that we had to follow as well. The most important probably being this idea of substantially equal. So what that means is in our 4 districts, to the degree we can, we need to strive for an equal number of residents in each one of those districts. So that was a real driving force in our creation of our map options. And again, the second paragraph talks about that idea of compactness. The third paragraph in the box talks about respecting communities of interest. Again, to the degree we could, we tried to respect those communities in our maps. And then the fourth element in the box is essentially this idea of retaining the core of existing districts. And again, as we look at the maps, I think we did a pretty nice job in trying to maintain the core of those existing districts. And then I, again, apologize for the formatting, but a few data points in the memo that I just want to touch upon. So this table, there's a lot in there, but I think to me, the most important is the far right column. And that is the change in our 4 districts from 2010 to 2020. So the 348 is the change in District 1. The 78 is a change in District 2. 1970 is a change in District 3. And 1953 is the change in District 4. And all those are increases in populations in each of the 4 districts. So our main task, again, in trying to maintain all those other requirements, but also the requirement of equal population in each district, was to essentially redistribute the populations in districts 3 and 4 equally amongst districts 1 and 2. So again, that was a real primary consideration in our drawing of maps. And then the other kicker here is obviously we all know within the year here, we'll be getting town of Madison population. The current population that we'll be getting per the 2020 census in town of Madison is 1,390. So again, we had to figure that into our calculus of equal distribution of population in our 4 districts. So this is all just additional data that I probably won't get into unless the council wants me to, but just various data points on 2010 population, 2010 boundaries, and then 2020 population per those 2010 boundaries. And then again, this is what you see here is descriptions for 19 of our wards. These are the new proposed wards. So essentially, these are what were in the ordinance and resolution, with the exception of the red text. Those were, again, the minor tweaks that I made to ensure consistency between the descriptions and the final map draft in front of you today. And I can certainly go over any of those if folks want. And I imagine we'll talk about the maps in the next couple items, but I think that's, again, kind of the gist of my memo. And I can certainly take any questions or comments that the council might have.
I think, first, Randy, I know you chaired our districting committees. Is there anything you'd like to add about the process and what went on?
Well, I don't think as far as the process, Wade summed it up quite well. I would like to recognize the members, though, if I may. Mm-hmm. The members of the panel consisted of Susie Jedin, Greg Jones, Huma Assan, and Bill Konzimis, Gene Musser, and then Wendy Hathaway was part of the committee as well. Unfortunately, she was not able to make it for that particular week. And then Chad Brecklin, and of course yourself, Mayor Richardson, was included on the panel. I think it's important to note the panel members. They're all residents of Fitchburg. They're all professional business people, and they all had significant amount of contribution to this committee. So I want to personally thank every one of them for their contribution. Beyond that, I don't have anything further to add than what Wade already presented.
I would also like to, thank Wade for all his work and Tracy for her work as well.
Yes.
Both of them also were very helpful. And just to clarify, myself and Chad, we were just there to answer questions, provide comment, as well as anyone from the public, though we didn't really have much public participation.
Yeah.
We weren't voting members. That was just the committee members and yourself.
That's correct, but I do apologize, Wade and Tracy, for not including you as well. I'm just reading off a list. I thank you very much for all of your hard work, especially leading up to the October 4th meeting.
All right. Any questions on the process? We'll talk about the maps here in the next couple items here, but questions about kind of process and that type of so far? All right. Seeing none, then first, Randy, do you want to make a motion?
Yes. A motion to approve resolution R-201-21 adopting a municipal ward plan.
Second.
Seconded by Jay. And Wade, do you want to speak to the ward plan?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Hopefully folks can still see that. I just wanted to get the entirety of the map on the screen. Well, I guess I can pop down a little bit, but yeah, just so basically what you see on this map, and this map was generated from software that the state gives to all the local governments to create their draft wards and aldermanic districts. So we have this map, and then we have another map that probably looks more familiar to the council. We can talk about that one as well. But just starting off with this one, this is the preferred option from our committee. We're calling it option 1AB. And again, just kind of some basic numbers up here about city population for 2020 census. We're at 29,609. With our future town of Madison population, we'll get another 1,390. So what that means is when you take 1,390 plus 29,609, I think it's like 3,999, something like that. Anyways, that number divided by 4 gets us to this number here. Again, we have 4 districts. The goal was to get, to the degree we could, an equal population in each of those 4 districts. So the number we strive for was 7750. That would have been standard equal population. We didn't quite get there, but we got pretty close. So in Ward 1, per this map, we're at 7980. Excuse me, in District 1, we're at 7980. And District 1 is wards 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is basically this area up here. So on the map, you'll see the D1, that's the district, and then just the lone number, that's the ward. So again, District 1, wards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. District 2, we're at 8,088, and that's wards 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So kind of this area in here. District 3, we're wards 11, 12, 13, and 14. And just bear with me on this. So that gives us a population of 6,105. Obviously, that's low, but the thought was to include the town of Madison in District 3 when we get it in October of next year. So that will then push District 3 numbers up to 7495. And then District 4, kind of a lot of our rural area, again, 15, Ward 15, excuse me, 14, excuse me, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And this will show up better on the next map. But that population, District 4, is 7436. And I do want to point out from the map that was presented in your packet on October 12th, I did mention that small map tweak that is in this area here. And literally, I just had a little area that should have been in section or Ward 12 and section 11, and then vice versa as well. So that was kind of up in this area here. Again, no population has changed wards or districts per that change. And that change was made to, again, ensure consistency with county supervisory districts. So moving into, again, a map that people are probably more familiar with. This basically displays everything I just talked about on probably a more easily readable map. But again, you know, districts wards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the orange, District 1, wards 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, District 2, purple, wards 11, 12, 13, 14, green, and then again, looking to get town of Madison population in within the next year. And I should also point out, there is another little piece of town of Madison population that will go into District 2, but there is no population in that district and no anticipated population in that district. It's, I believe, a car dealership. And then again, District 4 is wards 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And I do want to point out too, in terms of polling locations, and Tracy, you might want to help me out on this, but I believe all the locations have stayed the same, but the districts that they represent have changed. And I think that's a good thing, because now we have polling locations in the district in which they represent. So Little John's would be District 1's polling location. District 2 is Wyndham Garden. District 3 would be the community center. And then District 4 would be the fire station. And then, again, just some accompanying data that I don't think I need to get into unless folks want me to. But again, just some numbers on, you know, populations in all the wards and all the districts, and then also a comparison to what we had in 2010. So with that, again, I can answer any questions or take any comments that the council might have.
Before that, I just want to speak, I think what I remember you talking about for process, and I know that the committee looked at a little bit, is, you know, I think you looked at kind of what were the current districts, and I think you probably started at District 1, which makes a lot of sense as it is right now, but it needed to grow because the population of the city grew. And so it was either to the south or to the east. I know that the committee talked a lot about this, and the reason they went to the east is that still is in the Verona School District, and the line between Ward 5 and Ward 6 is actually the school district line. And so they wanted to do that. That might have been the only neighborhood that was in District 2 in the Verona School District, possibly. I'm not exactly positive about that, but I know that that line, the reason it is a little bit jagged there is because it's following the school district line. And so then it kind of went from there. It does still maintain District 1 as majority-minority district, which I think was something else the committee was very interested in maintaining as well. And so then once that kind of came out of District 2, then it was kind of a case of, okay, where in District 2 do you add some population? And right now, it's not Fish Hatchery Road, but this would then make Fish Hatchery Road that border, which again, I think makes a lot of sense. There was some District 3 on the west side of Fish Hatchery Road. So again, I think that's one that makes a lot of sense for a boundary, and it's a lot less confusing. The only spot on here that you might look at and see that's a little bit awkward is the Quarry Hill neighborhood that is going into District 4. It's Ward 18. And that was really, necessary to balance out 3 and 4. 3 and 4, like Wade mentioned, are a little bit smaller. We're still within the parameters that we need to, and I know the district talked about in District 3 and 4, that's where a lot of our growth is happening, and so while they might be smaller now, long-term, they see those catching up to some of the other districts. There is some development happening in the other ones as well, but a lot of our development is happening in 3 and 4, so that long-term, we do see those as balancing out better.
If I could just add on to that, and I appreciate that clarification, Mayor, and I should have kind of just give a quick summary of changes, and you did a nice job, but essentially, District 1 pushed a little bit to the east to pick up some population. District 2 pushed a little north to pick up population. District 3 will pick up town of Madison and also push south a little bit over here. And then District 4 was pushed south on its eastern edge. But other than that, kind of maintained its core boundaries. So, yep.
We'll do Randy and then Julia.
I just want to comment that part of the parameters we were not able to take into account future growth. I know there's been some discussion of it, but we really had a difficult time trying to not a difficult time, but it was a challenge to keep that from the equation, and that was part of the parameters. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that it was important for us not to factor in future growth. So.
Julia.
Yes, Wade, this is for you. On ward number 10, north, according to the map, it's end in Greenway Cross. So, but I think Simbrick, the dealership, is also part of 2.
Yeah, so you're talking town of Madison, Julie, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep, so technically, until we get town of Madison, which is now planned, we can't write it into our descriptions or show it on a map.
Okay.
But in our planning, we've accounted for it. So I think next year we'll probably have to do another ordinance that will bring in those town of Madison in terms of descriptions and maps.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments on this piece? Seeing none, then we can go ahead and go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Didn't think so. All right, good. All right, Randy, you want to do the ordinance next?
Yes, motion to approve ordinance 2021-0-20, an ordinance to repeal and recreate Chapter 2, city boundaries, wards, aldermanic districts in the city of Fitchburg.
Second.
Seconded by Jay. And Wade, anything else you want to add to this?
Tracy, do you want to cover this, or do you want me to, or whatever? You want me to cover it?
Wade, you're doing a great job.
Okay, sure. Go for the trifecta here. So yeah, I just want to thank Tracy. She did a lot of all the work on the ordinance. And just bear with me here. And Valerie, obviously helped out as well with some of the requirements. But essentially what we're doing here is, I guess it's called recreating and repealing Chapter 2 of our ordinance to update our descriptions for our city wards and our city aldermanic districts. So again, in terms of a motion, and Tracy may want to help me out, but I believe the council may want, if they want to, proceed, they would adopt it with the changes as presented in the staff memo.
Yeah,
And then
just for clarification, the changes are listed in the staff memo and they are incorporated in the ordinance description. So you won't see the red line in the ordinance description, but you can see the changes in the memo.
Yep, so we describe the wards, again, all 19 of them. No, we don't describe any town of Madison wards yet. And then at the end, I believe we identify polling locations for each ward. So as we discussed. And then I think we just talk about some procedures. Dates, and then we kind of keep a running table here of changes to this chapter. So I think that's kind of the summary of everything that we've discussed thus far.
Great. And I will say thank you for moving the polling locations into the districts that they actually are located. I think that was one pet peeve of a lot of people when you had to go to a different district to vote. So thanks for that. Julia, and then Joe after that.
Yes, I have a basic question. So I am looking at the ordinance and say that in section 3 that this ordinance and chapter 2, the Fitchburg General Code of Ordinance, take effect on the day after publication of this ordinance in the Wisconsin State Journal. So it means that this one is taken immediately after we are changing the district. So when is this going to happen? Like tomorrow?
Tracy, do you know when it publishes?
Yeah, it's the same for any ordinance adoption. After it's approved by council, we publish it in the paper. And it usually takes about 3 days from the time that we send it to the paper for them to actually publish it. So if we send it to the paper tomorrow, which is Wednesday, it'll be published Monday. So it'll go into effect on Monday.
So starting on Monday, we have each of us, or especially the district that they have the most changes, and we have different constituents to represent.
Yeah.
Yep, and the purpose of that is to be able to have this all done in time for the spring election, so that when nomination papers are being distributed on December 1st, you know where your boundaries are, your district boundaries are.
Can we have I would like to have like a map of only my district with all the streets, if possible to have that, to be sure to understand my new territory. You know what I mean? If we can have that. And then my other question, how is the city is going to inform the community about all of these changes? Because this is, I will tell you, in my district, there are going to be 3 neighborhoods that move into another district. So, so how is the process?
Yeah, Tracy, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So it's kind of twofold. There'll be a lot of social media output on there about the new wards and the new districts. It'll be on our website. Any polling location changes, those will be sent out to all registered voters prior to the February election. And it also will be incorporated into the MyVote website. So anybody that is looking to see where they live, where they vote, what district they're in, what ward they're in, it's all available on the MyVote website as well. So there'll be a lot of social media outreach. In fact, TV.
Will you also be working with Lisa to make sure it's in the Star, especially in our section of the Star?
Yes, that one is my other question, because a lot of the citizens don't go to social media or to our, so how we are going to outreach those people?
I'm sure they'll write an article, but between Tracy and Chad, they'll also make sure that it goes on the page that we put in the Fitchburg Star
Can we
every
send a
month.
letter to all of the residents?
They're getting a postcard if there are changes. Yep, if their polling places changes, which is going to be most everyone except for most of District 1 actually, then they'll get a postcard before February.
Okay.
That's a requirement. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, Tracy, I heard you say to registered voters. So that's only who will be getting it, or will I'm wondering if that could go to all sort of homes that are affected by the change, or all residents that are affected by the change, not just registered voters.
Sure, we could find a list for that for all the addresses affected that have a change. Normally, wards and district changes are based on elections, so it affects people voting where they're voting the most. But sure, we could reach out to all residents that are affected.
Thank you for that. The other question I had is about when the website will be updated. I know there's a section on maps. We could like click on individual maps. Do you know when that's going to happen?
Yeah, I would say the next week we can get new maps up there. I'll work with our GIS specialist and we can get those up there soon.
Excellent. And then the third question I had was about polling places. I know I had heard and had conversations. I don't remember with who, whether it be you or the mayor, but was there talk of potentially, because of the growth of population size of the city, having more than 4 polling places, like having multiple within a district or within different districts? I recall that conversation, but I don't remember when it was had or what the plan was about that.
Tracy, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, there was talk of adding an additional polling location based on the Town of Madison annexation. They'll be incorporated right after the August election. We can start notifying them of where a polling location would be. So midsummer, I am looking at trying to get another location over on the far east side of town to help incorporate not only the Town of Madison, but the future growth that has happened in District 3. And there is a possibility of maybe even having a 6th location so that we could split up District 2. District 2 is fairly large in their population. So yes, there's definitely going to be talks come midsummer about adding an additional polling location, if not 2. But for the timeline that we had on this portion of it, we kept the 4 locations as is, without talking about adding additional ones, just based on the timeline of adoption that we were given.
Any thought on potentially one in the Dunn's Marsh neighborhood?
Sure, we could certainly look into that this summer as well. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I know, just as a side note to what Joe was just talking about, Sun Prairie does have 2 polling locations for all 4 of their districts, and they're roughly the same size that we are. But I know finding buildings that can accommodate that can be a little challenging. Wade, the question I wanted to ask you, I had suggested some time ago that on the map, like this map, the colored map that we have, if we could show those Town of Madison portions just with like some hashing so that people can see that, you know, they actually are coming into Fitchburg and what they'll be part of when they do. Because I think that would be a helpful thing to have out in public view. The map the other map that's up there, you've got the arrow, but it doesn't really have anything outlined on there. And I think just having them shown as something that's going to be part of what Fitchburg is would be helpful.
Yep, we can do that.
And I'll also say, besides locations, also finding enough poll workers is also the challenge of having 6, 7, 8 pole locations. But we'll see. Hopefully it's not as big of a problem as COVID hopefully goes away, knock on wood. But I know that was part of the problem last year as well. I don't think anyone else has anything. So I will go ahead and go to a vote on the ordinance. All in favor of ordinance 2021-020, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. All right, next budget item. Wanted to just provide another opportunity for everyone to talk a little bit about the stormwater projects. I know that was a lengthy discussion last week, and there's some questions. And Misty is here with us again today. Looks like Bill's online as well. And I know staff has talked a little bit. I don't know if Chad, you would like to speak first to kind of what's been going on, or if Bill wants to speak to a little bit more of some of the questions that we had. I'll lead it up to you, Chad, first.
Sure, I can chat. So as you'll recall from our meeting last week on Wednesday when we started to talk through the ordinances, I think we kind of got, I don't know if we reached a roadblock, a hill, an obstacle, whatever we might want to describe it as it relates to whether or not stormwater projects are going to be delayed based upon the amendments versus capacity of the Public Works Department. So obviously, as we talked through that evening, there was sentiments shared by the members here, the alders, regarding the projects and whether or not they should be delayed. And then also, obviously, conversation related to the amendments that address some staffing capacity areas within the Public Works Department. So Bill has gone through and taken a look at the projects. He does have several of the projects already out for bid. I think at this point in time, Bill, I could probably turn it over to you to at least outline which projects are already out for bid, if that seems agreeable to you, Bill.
Yeah, of the projects that we have proposed, I asked our stormwater engineer to try to get the proposals together for the design work that we would be needed in 2022, so that in the event that everything was approved, we would go ahead and issue those design proposals for consulting. And currently we have 4 projects that are I think 4 projects that are out there for bid right now, or proposals we're seeking. One of them is Dunn's Marsh. Another one is Seminole Highway, or Seminole Glen Kettle. We also have an RFP for the TMDL, and that's associated with a grant that we have that recently we found out we will be awarded in December or January. But we did make the cut for that for our funding. So we would like to get going on that project as well. So we have, we're soliciting proposals for that one. And sorry, I don't have my notes with me. I think there's a 4th one. Let me get it.
Cheryl Drive, Bill, I think that one's out.
Yeah, Cheryl Drive is currently, we've got them under contract right now, so that we're going to get the design completed this year into next year for that project.
Can I jump in real quick?
All right.
For clarification.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Gabrielle, and I want to know a clarification.
Just wanted to clarify that the TMDL modeling and the Cheryl Court were not proposed as amendments, but the number 23 Dunn's Marsh project is at number 23 amendment, and then the Seminole Glen Kettle or Seminole Glen Stormwater Studies number 24. So if the council was interested, I can rescind both of those amendments on the floor if that's already ready to go from Public Works.
And then I think Julie just wanted you to go through, Bill, one more time at the projects that you said are out for bid. Seminole Glen is one, Dunn's Marsh is one. What were the other 2? Cheryl Drive.
Cheryl Drive, and the other one I was forgetting about, Cheryl Drive is under contract right now, so we've got a contract with the engineer to finish the design for that project for bidding and construction next year. The other project that we have are a pending award is for the Nine Springs Sod Regional Basin, the sod farm area for the Uptown Pond. That one is dependent, development is pending out there, and we have to get that pond constructed, do an area assessment for those before the development can go forward. So we would like to get that design next year and constructed in 23 in time for the proposed developments that are being proposed at this time. But Curry Court is another one that we've been seeking an amendment to a design contract. And based upon the amount of public input and easement acquisition and involvement, just, you know, with staff time and outreach, we asked the consultant what it would cost to, you know, take on this full project start to finish. And it came in about 6 times higher than the budget that we have for design. So it's a very expensive project. And I'd like to kind of put that one down. It is, you know, it does have some flooding problems out there, but I would like to take the opportunity to maybe step back again on this project and provide, you know, a better cost benefit to the council so that we can make some decisions and invest the money where we think it will do the most good. I've got a couple more ideas that the consultant didn't consider, which could possibly, you know, it would result in future grant funding from either county, state, or federal regarding flood mitigation. So we'd like the opportunity to look at those grant funding to do either flood mitigation, flood proofing, or, you know, in the event that all of those options are not available, that we would maybe purchase homes in that area, because the solution that we have for Curry Court right now, it will essentially what it will do will take the flooding from 2.5 feet down to 1.5 feet. So the water will still get into the homes and apartments in that area. It will take the time of the flood from 20 hours for it to dissipate to 10 hours. So, but you're still putting 1.5 feet of water toward those homes in that area. So it will help some, but for the amount of money that we would be investing in the solution, it's not going to solve the problem. And I'd like to look at how we can possibly solve the problem and give the council those solutions.
So it sounds like you'd be okay with Amendment 22 to Curry Court being delayed then, based on that?
Correct. There's some parts of the project that I think we can do, but again, we don't have the budget for it. So we would have to propose a budget amendment or something to even do some of those design projects, like the Old Indian Trail swale that needs to be installed, or, you know, some pump system or culverts and drainage on the north side of Curry Court. We would need, you know, some kind of a budget amendment for that as well.
Randy, that's your district. Do you want to speak to that and what you think the neighbors will think about that?
Well, based on what you just mentioned, Bill, I'm pleased to hear what some of your suggestions. I think up until this point, I'm not sure if I was given that information. But just to turn it to the residents, and unfortunately Jim's not here to speak to the residents as well, but I have received overwhelmingly support from the residents that this project not move forward as it is. And you delay it, you put it off, come up with other options, that would be fine by them. I think they're overly concerned that the project that's proposed at this point in time, it just may not work, and then there's a special assessment on top of it. So delaying it and coming up with some other alternatives is probably the best option.
All right. Bill, are there other things you want to add? I think I saw something that talked about, you know, even if other projects were delayed, there's still a need for that part-time stormwater project engineer, because there's a lot of work that's happening. And you talked about a couple of projects that aren't on this list that we want to happen. So it's not like delaying a bunch of these projects means we don't need this part-time stormwater project engineer. we still need that position, and we probably need it to be even more people than that. That's what I understand hearing. I don't know if you want to speak to that or not.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There are a lot of, behind the scenes activities that the stormwater engineer does that either aren't getting done or aren't getting done to the quality that we need to provide for our residents. You look at, I just mentioned, grant funding for flood mitigation. That's something that's not even on our radar, that we don't have an opportunity to go out and look for and pursue and look for those alternatives. A lot of times when we're putting forward a solution, it's like, our best practice. It's not, and it might not exactly fit. And so we'd like that opportunity to maybe slow down a little bit to be able to propose those. The environmental concerns, with climate change that we have is definitely a concern. We've got more regulations that are coming online, state and federal regulations. And especially when we go after these state and federal grants, there's a lot of administration that goes behind the scenes for those grants as well. So we do have, our stormwater permit locally that we need to enforce, and we could be doing a better job of that, bringing more of that in-house, because right now we contract out to the county for to the tune of $40,000 to $50,000 a year for inspection services and review services that we ourselves could be doing, plus use that additional capacity to take on program responsibilities and enhance those as well. So we do definitely have a need, especially in the outreach and community input, that we really could be investing in that in the future, to promote programs that would, such as rain gardens and rain barrels, and how can we get less runoff into our storm sewer? How can we promote that, cleaning the stormwater, give everybody a part of that. There's that part of our program is really missing and lacking, that I feel that could have long-term benefit for the community. So that, along with all of the projects that we have with construction and the development that's going on, it's just been, a strain to be able to spread that workload out amongst the one engineer we do have.
Julia, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, so so my comment is, I am planning to keep this position because I think we really need it. But my question is, my concern with this half-time is going to be very difficult to recruit for part-time engineer, okay? It's not the same that offer a full-time position that to a part-time. So, so that one, my concern is why we don't fund this position like a full-time using the Dane County funds that we pay. Bill mentioned that we pay $50,000 additional to Dane County to do some of our services in the stormwater. So I would say it's going to be more successful for us to recruit a full-time and easy, a full-time stormwater project engineer than a part-time. And then this is going to happen because it happened before. And then we're going to hire, if we find a part-time person to do this, then we will notice that this is more like for a full-time position, and then we can come with an amendment in the middle of the year. We can create some structural deficit if we decide to go full-time in the middle of a year. So my question is, why we don't try? I would like to see this position more being a full-time position and try to see from where we can get the funds, because it's going to be easy for us to recruit a full-time engineer. I don't know. This is my 2 cents.
Misty, do you want to speak? Is this actually half of a full-time position?
Nope, it is a part-time position. I think Bill has some comments, though, about the recruiting ability.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, currently I think this current stormwater engineer has expressed the desire to go to part-time. So, that on our personal note, she would consider doing that. So we would actually be recruiting for a full-time engineer if this position is created.
And then,
I want to understand. So we have currently a full-time that she want to go to a part-time.
Right.
So this one is going to be a full-time. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Then, but we are going to be short, but we are going to be still short half.
Correct,
No.
until the full-time is
Well, until,
hired.
I mean, I don't think she'd go part-time until we hire a new person. So, all right, Jay.
I've got two questions. The first one is, what is the educational requirement for a stormwater engineer?
Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering.
Okay. And then the other question is, the work that the county is doing for us that you had referenced earlier, do they have any specialized equipment for that work that we don't have, or do we have the equipment so we could theoretically just do this, starting tomorrow?
Yeah, it's not an equipment, it's more an educational and capacity issue. They review all of our stormwater permits to comply with our ordinances and do all the technical reviews, as well as the inspection on those developments. So it's just creating the capacity within our own staff to be able to do those reviews and the inspections.
Further discussion or comments? Gabriella?
Yeah, Bill, I was hoping you could comment on amendments number 20 and 21. The number 20 is the delay stormwater pond dredging and retrofitting project. Amendment 21 is delayed drainage and flooding improvements project. Could you comment on the feasibility of delaying those and if that would help with capacity in your staff, or if it's something that you're not concerned about?
Yeah, I guess we haven't put those out for bid, and Claudia would, see if she could get those done when she gets back next year. But those are low priority projects. We can, roll that money over into future years and combine them with other dredging projects. So, and then the flooding one is just, if something comes up that we need to do a quick study to address a flooding issue that comes up, that's not in our CIP. That's what that money's used for. So it's a low priority, but it's there if we need it.
So just to follow up, it sounds like your preference is to keep both of them in the budget, and we can always roll them over into future years if we don't use it in the coming year. That would be your preference?
Correct.
All right. Further questions or comments? Now's the best time to discuss everything. And just a reminder, next week you have 2 chances to speak on every amendment. Not through the whole night, that'd make it go a lot faster, but but on each amendment you only have 2 options to speak. So that's why it's best to discuss as much as possible here. I know we discussed a lot last week as well. All right, seeing nothing else, then I will move forward. 2 things about the next meeting next week. First, we'd like to start at 7 instead of 7:30. We did that last year. And then we still have a full council meeting before we talk about budget. 2 things we did last year that we'd like to do again this year. One is we would only have committee reports for committees that have some kind of actionable item. Instead of going through and everyone giving a report on your committee, we'd like to pass that. And then we'd also like to not have the council and alder reports, though saying that at the very end of the budget process, everyone gets a chance to speak anyway about the budget process. So, well, you might not talk about Burby Derby coming up in a few weeks, but you can speak to the budget process if you'd like. So, I mean, those are a couple things that we did last year to try and make it go a little bit faster anyway. I don't think it's going to be fast, but at least save a little bit of time anyway. So, and otherwise, committee of the whole, next one is in January. So that is all I have. Is there Gabriella?
Yeah, so if we start at 7, are we still having the public hearing at 7:30?
Yes, actually. So we did this last year. We'd start with just the regular kind of council meeting, but we'd have the public hearing for the public right before we start discussion on the budget, so that we don't want someone to show up at 7:30 and miss it. And so we did talk about that, actually, staff, thank you for mentioning that, as well as that we would actually do that right before the budget process for the budget public hearing anyway. So we want to make sure people that do want to speak have that opportunity, and they don't show up at 7:30 and it already happened at 7. So we want to avoid that.
So in terms of communication with the public hearing will start no earlier than 7:30?
Correct.
But maybe a little bit after that?
Correct. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jay, seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right. See you next week.